Okay, I think it's time to start. So welcome to this one and only, I think, lecture for you that is going to do your degree project work and take this course. And I said that you had to be at least 20, otherwise I wouldn't give this lecture, and you are more than 20, so I'm happy to see that you are this many people here. Well, today I'm going to give you some help about what you're going to do with the thesis. It's harder to give you help with the projects you're working with. You're happy, of course, to ask questions about your project during the break, but it's harder for me to do something about it, but we can always discuss it. Why we have this lecture in the first place is that it is hard to write thesis, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. How do you write a thesis? Can you raise your hand? Have you written thesis before? None of you? Not even bachelor thesis? No, not everybody, but many of you. Actually, some of you are doing capstone projects, and when you do that, you don't have to write a thesis. So that's different. Depends on which country you come from. Okay, but I would like to show you why it's important that you can express what you're writing about, because that's what the thesis is about, how to express things, and how would you express things, and how can you express some things that somebody else can understand. So we'll see if this works, because I think the sound doesn't work that well, so we'll see if this will work, okay? Okay. Start from beginning. I think it should work.
Hello there.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. You?
I'm okay.
That's good.
Are you good?
Yes, I am good. I just said I was.
No, you didn't. I said I was.
So you are a robot?
No, my name is Cliverberg.
Yes, you are a robot and your name is Cliverberg.
I am a robot.
Yes, I know.
Together we are robots.
I'm not a robot. I'm a unicorn.
But you said earlier that you were a robot.
I did not.
I thought you did.
You were mistaken, which is odd, since memory shouldn't be a problem for you.
I've answered all your questions.
No, you haven't.
What is God to you?
Not everything.
Not everything could also be something. For example, not everything could be half of something, which is still something, and therefore not nothing.
Very true.
I would like to imagine it is.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
So you're Christian?
No, I am not.
But you say you were not helpful, therefore you're a meaning.
How you say idoti.
That does not make sense.
Don't you want to have a body?
Sure.
Or if what?
So, yes, it is important that you actually know how to express things so somebody knows what you really want to say. So that is a very good example how it's not working. And I mean, they try to talk about the same thing, but at the same time, you don't know who is the reader, who is the receiver. And that's something you need to think about. Who is the receiver? And that person has just another way of thinking and look at the things. So that's what we are going to talk about today. And when it comes to expressing something, just minor things matters. Small things are really important. And by small things, I mean things like just how you maybe say one single sentence in the beginning sets the whole standard and the idea of the thesis. Because you will read it from the beginning and you will have expectations from the very first sentence. So how you express that first sentence becomes very, very, very important to the whole thesis. So, therefore, to be able to do it in a good way, I'm trying to now give you some ideas, some rules, and some hints to how to work with it so you can really express what you want to say. So, the first thing we will look at is how would the thesis look like when you present it? I mean, we have templates. You have the template already, so you know the layout of it. But there are parts in it that you should think about when you are writing. And I will give you just a couple of rules here and why it makes sense to look at it. But if you want to know more, there are lectures that I have already recorded that you can look at. So I will not repeat the very same thing because it doesn't make any sense. So if you want to know more, you can go and look at those lectures, the videos later on. Okay, style and typography. So why is that important? And what do we mean by style? And well, we talk about regulation and rules. And that sounds very trivial, like, okay, does it matter or does it not matter? Actually, it matters a lot. It matters much, much more than you think, because if you have something that is really heavy, then people tend not to read it. So if you think about a website you looked at rather recently, and think about the website that had a lot of text and there were not really any good stop. How did you feel when you read that whole thing? Or did you even read it? Is the question. Or if you find a web page with a lot of pictures and not really a lot of text, what did you think then? Did you think it was serious? So even too many pictures can destroy what you really want to know. It has to be a balance between text, titles, subtitles, pictures, tables, and so on. If you got a table with just the figures in it and you don't have an explanation text, what will you really get from that table? Not really a lot, unless you understand what's in it in the first place. But will you read it? Will you read a big table with just a lot of figures in it? Probably not. So how you present it, you need to think about the receiver. How will they receive it? So that's very, very important. So what we say is that we talk about fonts, like why are they important? And the fonts are give a lot of importance to you because fonts is easy to read or hard to read. Have you heard about that before? You have? Okay, so people, when they read text, they don't read the characters. Sounds strange, doesn't it? What do you mean? What do I mean when I say you don't read the characters? Well, actually you don't. So I can take any word and if we say it says new, I can write it twice. And one is like Arial. There is no serifs. Have you heard about that? Mm-hmm. The other one we will put serifs on. Now we changed the type to any of the other ones who have serifs, like Georgia or Times New Roman. That's a very, very common. Okay? What you actually read is not the characters as it says like that. What you do read is this. When you read a text, you only read what's on top and what's under it. you still understand what it says there, even though it's a lot of things gone. You can still see what it says. Can you? What if I do this? Now you know what it says, but it's much more difficult to look at what that says versus what that says, because that's how we do it. So we look at pictures and images, and when we know the characters, and then we know what it says immediately. Therefore, the font really matters. We say that the font, when you look at the titles, that doesn't really matter that much, because those you can read rather easily. But when it comes to a lot of text, you don't want to have Arial that is plain, because it takes time to read. Instead, you should use something else like Georgia or another font. So that's about the font. I will show you some examples just in a minute. Another thing with this one is I show you now levels. When I talk about levels, I talk about title levels, meaning that you have headings